Hello everyone. Just right off the bat, this is going to be another one of those low effort, no editing videos. So if there's some stumbling over words and stuttering and ums and ahs and inefficiency, sorry about that, but I just wanted to get these thoughts out there because I wanted to. This is long overdue. As you can tell by the title of this video, I have started and in some ways finished, I'll get to that in a second, Dragon Ball. Yes, I have been a content creator about anime for almost 10 years in terms of video essays and, I guess, being on Twitter and stuff like that, and streaming for more than 4 years, but I have never experienced Dragon Ball or Dragon Ball Z. For a little bit of history, obviously I've heard of Dragon Ball. I've obviously... I know the culture. I know a bunch of things about it. Cultural osmosis, right? When I was, 11, 12, I would come home from school and just watch the same 4 or 5 shows after school and before dinner, which I would eat 2.5 hours after I got back from school, and I would watch these as I do my homework or just relax or whatever. And I would watch SpongeBob SquarePants, Beyblade, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Digimon, and sometimes maybe like Fairly Odd Parents. But those are the main ones. Those 3 anime and SpongeBob. Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z did not air until later in the night, in the evening, when I was usually doing something else. 8:30, something like that. And I was usually busy with doing sports or, I don't know, at a friend's house or watching something else with my parents or family, or I don't know, I was doing something else, so I never checked out Dragon Ball. But there was this one time where, I don't know, for some reason I ended up staying in my basement a lot of the time, and my basement had like an old TV that was hooked up to cable, and during this time, for basically a week, I don't know why, I just decided to stay in my basement, but during this time, later in the evening, I would have access, or rather the opportunity, to watch Dragon Ball, and I did. I just tuned in the middle of the Boo saga. So, I know some spoilers pretty much just segregated to the Boo saga. What I do know, I'm about to say it, spoiler warning, I guess, but I doubt that's really necessary, but what I do know is that Boo is this big pink creature who seems to be some sort of weapon of mass destruction of sorts, maybe an alien, I don't know, who was this big, huge villain antagonist for our characters, and who seems to have a good heart because he made a connection with a dog, but then I think that dog died, and Boo just went crazy, and completely lost it, and any chance for Boo to be, good was erased when that dog was killed. And that made me very upset, actually, when I first watched it, because I have a thing for animals, and especially dogs, and that made me really sad, and the whole trajectory of what happened to Boo, I had no context, but I understood what was happening, made me really sad. And then from there on, I know that Boo gets, like, more muscular, loses, like, the fat, and gets really muscular and looks kind of evil, and, it's like a kind of a revolving door of protagonistic characters fighting Boo. That's about all I know. Now, I've heard through cultural osmosis what Super Saiyan is. I knew of Piccolo. I know of Frieza, Cell, Vegeta, but I just knew of the characters. I knew what they looked like. I knew Goku, but I didn't know anything other than that, really. And so there are these vague things that I got through cultural osmosis, but I have never experienced it, which is funny considering how big Toriyama has been for my life. Chrono Trigger is one of my favorite video games of all time, and he's a huge creative part of Chrono Trigger, being the character designer and the illustrator for the art and the designs, for the pixel art. I love Dragon Quest as a series, and Toriyama's work, illustrations, are the identity of Dragon Quest. Just look at my favorites. Just go through my top 10 that I listed last year. Hunter x Hunter, Haikyuu, some of my more favorite shonen like One Piece, Bleach, Naruto, even Attack on Titan. They would not exist if Dragon Ball didn't exist. And I am convinced that Toriyama has one of the biggest cultural footprints you'll ever see. Even for people who don't directly experience Dragon Ball like me, my life has been so unbelievably touched by him. And so I'm just eternally grateful. Even in a world where I hadn't picked up Dragon Ball, I would have been extremely grateful, and I was very emotional when he passed. But on Twitch, I've gone through One Piece, I continue to go through One Piece, continue to go through Kagurabachi, Hunter x Hunter whenever there are new chapters. The likes of JoJo's, Tokyo Ghoul, Bleach, whatever, all these series that are, present as a result of Toriyama. But it got to a point where it's like, why don't I just read Dragon Ball? It's the perfect opportunity for it, a lot of people care about it, and so I did. A few months ago, I started Dragon Ball. A couple of months ago, I started it. 3 months ago, I started it, and I had no idea what to expect. And, a running gag has been, I know Vegeta. I know enough about him, very vague things, but I know enough about him to think that he would be my favorite character. His brow is always furrowed. He seems to have an antagonistic rivalry with Goku, but also they seem to be friends, adversaries, the Hinata Kageyama, Naruto Sasuke, maybe, sort of thing. That is super up my alley, and maybe inferiority complexes, that sort of thing. He just struck me aesthetically as someone that I'd really gravitate towards. So I had been keeping my eye out for Vegeta the entire way through. As we started, I assumed he'd be there from the beginning. Well, literally tomorrow, the day I'm recording this, tomorrow, we finish the Dragon Ball section of Dragon Ball. Well, Viz Shonen Jump divides it up into Dragon Ball and Dragon Ball Z, and Dragon Ball is 194 chapters, Dragon Ball Z goes from there until 500 something. But as of now, tomorrow we are about to hit the end of Dragon Ball, as of recording this, and I have not met Vegeta, and that is hilarious. It's become a bit of a meme in the streams. Every time I meet a new character, it's like, Vegeta? So yeah, we've had lots of fun playing around with my expectations for things. I met the Demon King Piccolo and was like, wait, this guy doesn't look like the Piccolo I think I've seen. So we had lots of fun with things like that, but mainly just for my thoughts on the series in general. It's been really cool and really fun to see the series that has laid down all these tropes and staples of shonen that have then been picked up and whether they be expanded upon or polished or subverted or examined or whatever. But, all these dynamics and elements of shonen, they started right there. I'm aware that there were influences before that, but also Toriyama did lay the foundation in a lot of ways. So it's been great to see it for that. Aside from that, it's been very charming. From the start, it's very charming. There's some humor that doesn't land, Master Roshi. And sometimes there's some stuff that isn't great. There's some humor that isn't great. And regardless of culture, regardless of time period, there are some jokes that I will never enjoy and will always think are bad. And there are some of those in Dragon Ball. It is what it is. But by and large, I just found it so charming. I found it so funny. The characters are bounce off each other incredibly naturally. The dialogue is fun. And then the art style and the panel flow with the fights, it flows so smoothly. I would just find myself, the chapters melting away because of how easy it is to just read 4 chapters in like a few minutes because it just goes by so quickly, so seamlessly. Excuse me, I'm a little sick. And that was mostly what I thought of it. I'm like, yeah, this is a fun time. It laid the foundation. It's a gag manga, I don't know when we're gonna get to the point where a dog dies, causing this villain to lose his mind and become overcome with grief and lose all hope in the world and just become bent on destruction. But I'm enjoying the ride. And then suddenly, around the end of there were some glimpses, right? The end of the first Tenkaichi Budokai, but specifically the second Tenkaichi Budokai, something shifted. Something really shifted in the story, and it reached another level of greatness. I correlated with the introduction of Tenshinhan, Tien, who is, to me, probably the best character in the story. Goku's amazing, there's lots of really interesting things, Jungian themes associated with him that really haven't been tackled yet, and I wonder if they will be. I think they will be. His inner monster, how he comes to terms with humanity, opens himself up to the complex nature of humanity, becomes more than just a blank slate. I'm not going to analyze Dragon Ball here, but there are lots of beautifully interesting things that I talk about in great depth on my streams. If you're interested in seeing my streams, the read-through streams, they're all available on Twitch for anything in the last 60 days. You can check them out on Patreon, every single Dragon Ball VOD, hours and hours and hours of blind read-through content where I then try my best to sort of dissect it a little bit. It's all on my Patreon, if you're interested. But I think there was a lot of interesting stuff in the first, I don't know how long, 100 chapters, whatever. But then, specifically when we hit the Tien stuff, and the Gohan stuff, where Gohan, we saw him after he passed on, and he talked to Goku nonetheless, and he was happy. That chapter, you can't help but think of Toriyama there, and any loved ones who have passed in your life, who look at you smiling, and I don't know, it really got to me a lot. But then after that, very shortly after that, we dive into character work for Tien, who is genuinely a really, really layered, interesting character to dovetail and balance with Goku. I love Bulma, I just love her personality. Krillin has a really good arc too, and there's a magic with Master Roshi, Goku, and Krillin and their dynamic, and Master Roshi's philosophy about basically the detours and always having a goal to strive for, and then how that juxtaposes with Sudu Senin. Master Roshi, when he's not being bad, is really exceptional. He's a really great character when he's good. Which, as the series has gone on, to be fair, has happened more and more often. Anyway, but yeah, something shifted there. And then we get introduced to Demon King Piccolo, Piccolo Daimyo, or whatever. And then we get introduced to, who is quite a good character, but then we get introduced to his spawn, who carries the torch of his wishes to dominate humanity and rule over the world. But it's not his wishes, are they? It's not his identity. He's baking his identity into what was thrust upon him, but it's not what he wanted. And so that just lays the foundation for incredibly compelling character work, which I am now experiencing, because where I left off last week in my last read-through, Goku and Piccolo were fighting each other, and we had Piccolo defeat his old self, or his alternate self, with Kami. Kami, whatever. He separated himself, the dark aspects of himself, into Piccolo Daimyo, which then created Piccolo. And then the other part of himself went to the Tenkaichi to fight Piccolo. All that stuff. Fascinating thematics. All this to say, I've just been really impressed from the start, but especially once you hit the second Tenkaichi. The writing quality has really leveled up. The fights have been great. Every week I find myself surprised by the amount of thought and substance, and I feel like this is a series that kind of, from what I hear, the way I hear people talking about it, people go like, yeah, Dragon Ball is great for the influence it's had, for the way it's inspired lots of your favorites, for the panel flow, and the establishing shonen staples. But it is also just a very good story in its own right, I think, so far. Again, I'm like 186 chapters in. Tomorrow we're finishing the Dragon Ball portion. But yeah, I genuinely just think it's just straight up a very good story, and I hope it goes from strength to strength. I haven't met several iconic characters: Vegeta, Frieza, Cell. who have inspired characters that I love. I'm pretty sure Cell has inspired Meruem. I don't really know, but it's been great so far. There's so much substance there. There's so much to glean off of and really chew on in terms of symbolism and thematics and dynamics. And it's just been a joy, really. So if you're interested in the VODs, they're out there on Patreon, they're out there on Twitch for the last 60 days. This will probably go up the evening before we get into the last stream for it. You can come in and join for the last one if you'd like. We're gonna revisit Dragon Ball. We're gonna for the Z material, but we're stopping and going on hiatus now. I'm gonna spend a couple weeks reading Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo on stream. These are my Wednesday slots. Then after that, I'm gonna be ranking my top 100 fiction for fiction antagonists and protagonists for our yearly tradition. And then after that, we're doing Tokyo Ghoul Re. And then after that, we're doing Dragon Ball Z. So a few things to get to before we get to Dragon Ball Z again. It's on a bit of a hiatus, but it's been an amazing journey so far, and I just wanted to get this video out there to sort of just give some scrambled, scattered thoughts about it, ramble a little bit. It's been genuinely so much fun. It's been great to hear you guys in chat, if you come out to the streams, share your experiences, share which characters you love, the iconic characters that have shaped your childhood or in one way or another affected your lives, telling me about how you'd stay up with your siblings or your friends and check out the next round of the Tenkaichi in the anime or whatever, and that will continue. We have so much more to go for the series. And I just wanted to get this out there. I guess the TLDR is I started Dragon Ball blind as someone who's been around for years and years and never experienced it, and I am thoroughly enjoying myself, just as I did with the rest of the big three. I'm doing with Dragon Ball. It's been a great time, and I really I'm gonna miss it while it's gone, but I can't wait to get back to it. Maybe later in the year, whenever we get to it, whenever the other stuff is done. But we got lots of fun stuff on the horizon in the meantime. I'm rambling. Dragon Ball's great. Dragon Ball's great, and I hope it only goes from strength to strength, and I suspect it will. Many thanks for watching. Again, feel free to come out to the streams if you're interested. Again, we've got Jujutsu Kaisen Modulo coming up. We've got the top 100 streams. If you're interested in me ranking this year's, my 2026 version of my favorite characters of all time, my favorite fiction of all time, we're playing games. We're playing Alan Wake 2, Red Dead Redemption in the future, probably, Resident Evil, Metal Gear Solid when the Master Collection comes out in August, September. So, lots of fun stuff. You can come down to the streams if you're interested. I'm gonna miss it. I'm a little sentimental, but I can't wait at the same time for tomorrow's stream and whatever's to come in the future with Dragon Ball. Anyways, thank you for watching. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being a part of the streams if you are. Thank you for all the fan art. That's been a great part of the streams. Thank you for being a great community, and I'll see some of you guys tomorrow. Thank you so much.